To thank the chief and his staff for coming out this evening and sharing with us the progress that the department is making. And I'd also like to welcome Bill Fallon, the new county manager, and very happy that he's joining the team, and I know he's going to add great value to the deliberation. So appreciate you being here. And I think we have on the telephone, I think, Mr. Chairman, are you on the phone?
Yes, sir. I'm on the phone. I'm sorry, I'm not there in person, but I'm here virtually.
Okay. And is that Ricky, the acting chairman, or is that Director Rankovich? Director, are you on the phone?
Ralph, I'm here.
Great. And I know that the acting chairman, Ricky Walker, is in Philadelphia dealing with some family issues, and
Yes,
I think he was going to try to join
Yes, sir.
by telephone if he can. So
Yes, sir.
So we have a quorum, and then we can start the meeting. So first of all, I'd like to thank Christy for providing us with the minutes from the April 20th meeting, and I assume everyone's had an opportunity to review them, and if there are no issues, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Oh, sorry.
Could I have a second? It's been moved and seconded, and all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, the minutes have been approved.
Aye.
And we've got a lengthy agenda this evening, Chief, so why don't we just get right at it, and we're looking at, we'd like to get an update on the CALIA accreditation, and
Yes, sir.
where we are with
Second.
that, and we're anxious to hear.
Yes, sir. Someone said something, I wasn't sure if that was Chairman O'Quinn or not. If not, with your permission, sir, I'll go ahead and start. Good afternoon, Chairman Walker, Vice Chairman Basham, Chairman O'Quinn, and members of the Police Advisory Panel. Your Glynn County Police Department would like to take a few moments to highlight what we're doing and to discuss our current status. We would also like to invite each of you to the building dedication tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Our building will be renamed in the honor of the late Chief Carl Alexander. We hope that you all can attend, and it'll also be televised, so if you can't, it'll be virtual. First, just a quick couple of updates for you so that you are aware before I go to your agenda of the CALIA standards. I just feel it's proper to get this out the way now with your permission. First, we held our promotion ceremony, as you know, on April 27th. I'm extremely proud of the men and women promoted that evening and look forward to their contributions as one of the Glynn's guardians for years to come. That was 8 lieutenants and 11 sergeants for the record. Second, we have acquired our new bloodhound puppy by the name of Chief. He was named by the family of Chief Carl Alexander. He was donated by the Jimmy Rice Center for Victims of Predatory Abduction. Chief is an AKC registered bloodhound and will be used to track lost and missing persons. He will not be trained in apprehension, therefore reducing any potential risk to harm when searching for special needs children or even dementia patients. Thirdly, we have recently completed our GBI Criminal Justice Information Systems audit. This in-person on-site audit is conducted every 3 years for every agency in the state. We were found to be in complete compliance and passed our audit. All our missing person reports and wanted persons files were found to have 0 errors to date. Our current terminal agency coordinator, Ms. Sonia Roberts, who's our TAC, assumed this role in November of 2021. Ms. Roberts has been a great addition to our staff, coming to us from the Glynn County Brunswick 911 Center. On a personal note, she continues to just bring a different level of excellence to the warrants and to the missing persons reports that we continue to generate. Fourth, we have transferred 3 officers to the Criminal Investigations Division to meet their ever-growing needs. They're currently in the field training phase of their process and are working to earn the title of detective. Fifth, our recent vehicle purchases have arrived, being the 14 Ford Explorers. Vehicle decals have been applied. We're now awaiting final installation of police equipment, which will be done locally at Hasty's Motorola. They won the bid this spring and are now awaiting all equipment such as push bumpers and partitions. These items are typically not in stock and get ordered after winning the bid, so the manufacturing process adds some time for complete unfitting. However, we are fortunate to have a local company to win this bid. First, that aids our local economy, and second, it allows us to have immediate access to repairs if the issues arrive. We also want to add that the Axiom camera systems are also going to be added at this place, because what they've done is send a technician to work out of the Hasty's location, so we'll have direct access to them anytime there's any technical issues. Sixth, Lieutenant Austin has been assumed a temporary role as Director of Animal Services. In addition to her assignment as Assistant Patrol Division Commander, she continues to juggle both positions admirably and continues to bring great balance to both sides of the fence, being animal control as well as GCPD. And finally, seventh, some special patrols items that we have been using. We have repaired our stock of bicycles and hope to begin using them again for neighborhood patrols and events. We also have completed this year's ATV classes, all-terrain vehicle classes, for our beach patrols, which will be returning within the next couple of weeks. Our Pier Village Foot Patrol has been going for about a month, providing an increased presence on the island and in the heavily trafficked areas on Friday and Saturday evenings of downtown SSI and any other areas that they're needed within the village itself. With that being stated, sir, with your permission, I will present the items on your agenda now, if that's acceptable. First and foremost, we will look at items 3 and 4, which are the accreditation and certification. If we refer to item 3 in your packet that you have before you, it should begin with the documentation at the top of the page that says Chapter 1. With that being said, basically, we continue to pursue these two programs, both certification and accreditation, simultaneously. Chapter 1, Standard 1.24, Interagency Task Forces. We have recently entered a task force with a federal agency. A policy is now being created to meet that. Chapter 4, 4.6, Job Descriptions and Requirements, waiting for HR to respond. Chapter 5, Standard 5.3, Civil Process Service, which is not applicable because what we have found is, and let me jump back and state that that particular area deals strictly with the civil process aspect and basically deals with the Glynn County Sheriff's Office. Our staff from our Office of Professional Standards, Lieutenant Leska and our analyst, Ms. Thorpe, are scheduled to attend 2 conferences this summer as a result of getting prepared for them to take on greater roles in the OPS Standards Division. They will attend the Georgia Accreditation Coalition Summer Conference in June, being held in Brazelton. They will also attend the CALIA Summer 2022 Conference in Chicago in July. These conferences will provide tremendous value and training for us, and we continue in this process. Going back to the chapters, Chapter 6, which is under item 3 again, Standard 6.15, Traffic Enforcement related to non-area residents, military, and foreign diplomats. Policy procedures are being added. And I can continue, sir, or if you want, I can cut straight to the chase and give you the final workup. But as you see before you, all of the chapters contain addendums or increases in what we have done to make us more compliant. As a result of this, just so that you have the actual numbers in front of you, it extends over to show that complete status by numbers. We have 125 policy standards found and completed of the total of 142. 13 policy standards are currently being created. 4 policy standards we have found are not applicable to our agency and will require a waiver. As a result, the percentage stacks are such that we now have 88.02% completed in our goals to reach full accreditation and recertification, and 9.15% of those remaining standards are under current review, and we have also found that 2.82% are actually not applicable, and we will be applying for them to be removed from the standards chart. That is for your accreditation and certification
Okay,
portions.
is there any comments? Or would you like to go over anything in particular on this particular item?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Under Chapter 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, really, just really looking under Chapter 6, it looks like there's a number of standards where it says policy procedures are being added.
Yes, ma'am.
But there are two, 6.26 and 6.27, relating to surveillance equipment and policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Where it says policy needs to be created.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
can you explain the difference between, like, where are we on those two standards as opposed to the ones where policies are actually being added?
What we have done is we had existing policies in the previous Glynn County Police Department policy prior to, or I should say, post-GBNet, with dealing with undercover surveillance equipment and dealing with the surveillance policies. What we wanted to do in pursuit of a better transparency is look at those standards, retool them to make them more compliant with what current standards are dealing with surveillance policy. So we're actually rewriting those, and they're being created, but we are not ready to present them as part of the actual packet. But we're looking at both of those standards to make sure we're meeting those down the road in the near future as part of the full completion of the policy.
So since our last meeting, we have made progress, would you say? And we've
Yes,
made,
sir. We were at 80%, I believe, the last time. We're now at 88%.
And are there any of these that are particularly problematic that you are having challenges with or difficulty with or need further assistance with?
Other than the assistance that was identified in helping with the accreditation process, we are currently working with LaGrange. The chief of police there admirably has offered up assistance, and she is electronically working from LaGrange. When she's ready, she'll come down and do a full, complete review and help us to make sure we've hit all of the check marks with our CALIA standards as well as our certification standards. FLETC, as you may remember, also has a team that has entered into the arena to offer us a 50,000-foot snapshot of accreditation and compliance. So they're in the process of beginning to work with us also to help us to reach that final goal. We're looking to try to speed this thing up and reach the necessary standards so that we can try to have everything in place within a reasonable amount of time.
I guess my question is
I'm
there
sorry,
anything that gives you concern or pause that we are looking at here that could delay accreditation or certification? So
At this time,
you
no,
feel
sir.
like- Okay.
I believe that we are moving in a very positive direction forward to meeting the standards that are needed to reacquire our accreditation policy and our standards policy. The only thing that really continues to plague us is the manpower shortage and having enough people to do the job across the board, which falls outside of your question.
As you know, this issue has been very important to the panel and to the commissioners.
Yes, sir.
And to the public at large. And so is there any sort of way of giving us an idea when you may think you may want to have someone to come in to do the certification? I mean, how far down the road do you think that might be?
Sir, I would be remiss if I tried to stand here and offer you an exact start date. What I can do is each week the policy teams meet on this. I can sit down with them and have a hard meet, find out what they maybe have as a projected date, and then send it to you in an electronic format for you at a later time. But to stand here now, today, and give you a sunset on this, I couldn't do that.
I don't want to put anyone's feet to the fire, but I'd like to put somebody's feet to the fire on this, if you may. This is something that is obviously extremely important to get accreditation, and so we're extremely interested in it. And
Yes, sir.
and we hope that we can hope you've got the resources and the initiative moving to get it done.
I'll speak candidly, sir. Not only do we now have the resources, I believe that we will be successful in the final goal of reaching the standards that this board, as well as the community, is expecting from our department. And I don't want to say a relatively short time, but in definitely a projected time less than what was originally forecasted. I can say that with all sureness.
Chief, let me ask
Yes,
you a
ma'am.
question, if I could, please. Could you just remind us of the process once you feel comfortable? What is the process going forward, and how long does that take for these reviews of the packages?
Once we have put together what we feel is an adequate package to meet the standards that were pointed out in the ICP report, as well as what the state standards are, we will then petition for a soft review. They'll come in and take a look at everything on both sets, because remember, they're running simultaneously. Once they've reviewed them, they'll make whatever recommendations they feel need to be adjusted or improved upon. We'll take that period of time, focus on those use-centric areas, build those back up, and then we'll make a formal request for them to then go back in and do a hard review all the way down the standards pages. And once we're able to succeed with that, it's my belief then that we petition then to be reviewed for full accreditation and recertification process. And it's a matter of time and a vote then that comes from the higher level boards. And that's where we are with that
Is
process.
this process a 6-month process or a year? I'm just not familiar with your process for the state.
We are hoping to make an application within 6 months of the completion of this. So what is normally a year process, we're going to try to make that application within 6 months.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
with regard to the civil process standards that you've indicated you're going to be seeking a waiver, what's involved in that waiver application process, or is that something, is that waiver request submitted simultaneously with the?
It's a simple
package?
formality, ma'am, is what it is. And what we do is when we submit it, it's with the understanding that they're going to come in and basically just do a soft review. It's not going to affect pushing us further back or propelling us forward. It's just basically giving us a litmus test as to where we are in the process. So the waiver is a generosity almost on their part to come in and do a hard review for us of it. One of the things that I would be remiss to also point out to you, as I was just reminded, not only are we sending our compliance persons to conference, but Captain Robinson will be attending, and I'll be speaking to that in a few minutes, but we have conferences slated for June and July that will be attending the International Association of, that's in October. We'll be attending the Noble Conference, the Georgia State Chiefs of Police Conference in June, and the HBCU Law Enforcement Executives and Administrators Conference to look at various standards. Captain Robinson will be attending the Axion Conference out in Phoenix next week to bring back the regularized standards that they have to help us in moving forward, but that's under my Axiom update. I'll speak more to that at that time. So what we're doing is making sure that the command groups that need to be at these necessary conferences are there, which further adds to our value of being reaccredited, because we're keeping up with the normal standards through the ethical trainings at these various conferences to see what we need to be doing better as a police department.
Yeah,
Chief,
thank-
this is David O'Quinn. I wanted to ask a question. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, sir. Good afternoon.
Okay. My understanding previously was the certification process with Georgia Chiefs is different than the CALIA accreditation, or I might have my terms backed up.
It is, sir. It is.
And so what I'm trying to understand, are you, we are attempting to get our certification accreditation from Georgia Chiefs first and then CALIA second, or are we trying to do them simultaneously?
We're doing it all simultaneously, sir. The
By
idea is
doing
in
it simultaneously, are we forfeiting an opportunity to go ahead and get our our certification accreditation from Georgia Chiefs. Is that delaying us at all in getting that portion of it done?
No, we're working on both almost at the same time, sir. As we meet the metrics of one, we're actually meeting the metrics of the second as well.
My understanding is you're working with the gentleman from LaGrange, I think, who
The
is
chief of police.
past president of the IACP, if I'm not mistaken.
He's past president of ICP as well as the Georgia Chiefs of Police Association.
Okay, have we hired him to help us, or is he just sort of helping us, giving us guidance?
Sir, at direction of our request, he is doing it almost as a gratis, and also in his relationships of knowing both myself and members of the PAP as well as members of GACP. He's working to help us see a brighter tomorrow, and he's doing it more so out of a gratuity aspect. Nothing in return other than to take care of the person that he sends with the housing and lodging and per diem. That's it. We're
Okay.
not offering them anything else, and nothing was asked in return for the services.
Well, I'm not really, I guess I want to be sure that we're getting as much attention from him as we can.
Yes,
So, I know he has, I think I'd seen a previous proposal about some fees. So I'm glad to hear maybe he's working, ad gratis on some of this, but at the same time, I want to be sure we have his full attention. I'm probably asking that question to Mr. Fallon more than you, Chief, is to be sure that, we're when you get a chance to talk to Chief and the gentleman out of LaGrange, to make sure that we're working with him as closely as possible, because I think he can really help us move forward with the State Association of Chief of Police and our accreditation.
Yes, sir.
Accreditation.
If I could add to your statement, in my conversations with him, both verbally and electronically in writing, he is committed to helping us overcome this hurdle. I actually had the opportunity to meet him during Chiefs College when I attended right after January timeframe. Even then, he expressed an interest in wanting to make sure we were able to put this behind us because he sees the value this department brings to this community and to the Southeast region corridor.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if Mr. Fallon also, you have the opportunity to introduce him to Mr. Fallon so that he not only knows you, but knows our county manager.
Yes, sir.
And, I think that's just to be a good way to continue to draw in or press into him as we move through this process.
Yes, sir. Duly noted. Duly noted.
If I could, I'd just like to add a couple of things. So first of all, coming into Glynn County, I was pretty well pleased with the briefing that we had a couple of weeks ago with Mr. Basham and Captain Robinson on the progress to date. To be honest with you, I was glad to see that Glynn County had come so far in what I believe to be a short amount of time. I met with Chief Batiste and did tell him that accreditation was certainly going to be one of my top priorities for the police department, and I offered to help as much as possible with my background in accreditation. To your point, Mr. Chairman, I do know the chief from LaGrange as well, and we'll reach out to him and see what I can do to help foster that relationship and obtain that assistance that we need. The one thing I will add, though, is I do want to see this kind of run like a project with some milestones and some deliverables, and that is something that I'll meet with both the chief and the captain on next steps. Because the key for accreditation is not only to obtain accreditation, but you have to build it right so that you sustain it, and that's the key. Once you get accreditation, it's difficult to maintain, so you have to stay on top of your policies and your standards. So, looking forward to the next briefing to see how far we're able to come. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments on this topic? Well, I would like to, on our next session, hear from Captain Robinson on your meetings in Phoenix next week and what that can provide to us. And of course, we all, I agree with Bill. It's a living document and it's a living process. So thank you very much for that report, and we look forward to further progress.
Sir.
Okay, we'll move then to item number 5. I'm assuming 3 and 4 we've covered. Is
Well, I still need to cover 4 for you, sir, the status on the GACP certification.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
In regards to the state certification, we offer this update. GACP has added 2 standards since our last meeting. Those standards are 3.9, which relates to certification, documentation, and 6.37, which relates to post-conviction evidence processing. Again, of the 142 standards for the GACP certification, 125 of those have been met. This means we have found in our policy the standards required. We have 4 or 2.82%, which are not applicable, and as I stated earlier, those apply strictly to the civil process where the Sheriff's Department handles that area. We have 13 or 9.15% that are currently under review, being created, or proof being acquired. Example of such would be updated holding cell medical signs that are being posted as required by Standard 9.14 have been ordered for our holding areas at the police station. Now, sir, with your permission, I'll move on to number, we're going to cover the CALIA standard with one final note before we move to item number 5, with your permission. Under CALIA, we are awaiting budget approval to continue in the process. We are continuing to network with other agencies to streamline the process and learn from their prior experience. That goes hand in hand with the assistance we are currently receiving from LaGrange as well as from FLETC and other agencies that we may eventually tap into to make sure we have a good set of standards in place. I'm sorry, sir. Oh, yes, sir, and Captain Robinson also diligently reminded me the budget has been completely squared away. It is approved for us to move forward.
Just a quick, how many people would you say are dedicated to this program from the department at this point?
With the you posed the question at the last meeting, sir, also. We have 2 dedicated persons, but we also have a full committee that meets as far as policy. This is everyone from a slick sleeve police officer all the way up to one of the captains, which totals roughly 7 or 8 people. They sit every week and they review each one of the standards and policies to determine if we're meeting the metrics of what are being asked for, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be added. With the addition of LaGrange and with FLETC, we'll probably have a working team somewhere in the area of around 12, 14 people by the time it's done.
And are they engaged in actually writing and reviewing and editing these, so they're physically doing
Yes, sir.
those sorts of things?
Yes, sir. If
But
not
there
daily,
are 2 people,
every other day.
But
Yes,
the
sir.
2 people are the ones dedicated to that process?
Yes,
I know I know the review process, but you have 2 people who are actively working on, and plus
Captain Robinson plus one other person are daily diligently at the computer
Okay.
working on this.
Okay, and that's sufficient in your mind to move?
Believe me, sir, I would love about 100 people to do this so we can knock it out immediately, but we have to take it by what we have. But now with the additions that we have before us, that will only serve to help enhance our working staff. Sir. You ready? All right, sir. With your permission, item 5, 12-hour shifts. Yes, sir. Item 5 is calendar. As you see in your handouts, we included calendars for May, June timeframe, and even July, I believe, to show you how the calendar is set. The way it's written under our current 12-hour shift, we've got 4 days on, 4 days off schedule. The officers were polled on 12-hour shifts in December of 2021. At the time, about 55 personnel of the department were assigned to our patrol division. The survey was an email sent out by Ms. Christy Kensel and was only sent to patrol since it most highly affected their work ethic and performance. The anonymous survey had 40 officers to respond of the 55, or basically 73%. Of those who responded, 65% of those 73% of the officers voted to maintain the 12-hour shift with 4 days on, 4 days off. As you can see with the calendar, patrol basically works 4 weekends in a month in a row, and then as the days cascade down, they have 4 weekends off in a row, which offers them a better opportunity to plan family schedules, vacations, any other special events that may come up important to family dynamics or personal dynamics. Just as we enforce trying to maintain a high work ethic, we also make sure they understand personal time and family time is just as equally important in a structured environment of a law enforcement officer. That is the report on number 5. With your permission, sir, I'll move to item number 6 on the update on
Are there
Axon.
any comments that anyone has on that particular item? Okay.
No, actually, Chief, we'll follow up on this. I have some questions that we'll talk about later on. I'm curious as to retention and other things, if that's the type of thing that has helped us so far. But we can talk, we'll talk more in
Yes,
our
sir.
weekly discussions. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think we have a delay, sir. All right, moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is your Axon update. Captain Robinson, as I stated earlier, is scheduled to attend the Axon.
Question is, are we going to continue the 12-hour shift? Is that the sense of this report, Chief?
At this time, sir, it is our intention to continue the 12-hour shift. Unless there's a cascading need to change and go back to 10 hours, we believe that this is the most effective based upon the number of personnel we have currently in the department. All right, sir. Again, returning back to item 6 of the Axon update, excuse me. Captain Robinson, as I stated, is scheduled to attend the Axon Accelerate 2022 conference next week in Phoenix. This is the annual Public Safety Technology Conference they host to highlight their products and also to offer options which we may wish to pursue in the near future. After the issues that we have seen with the TASER 7 on-off switches last fall, all replacement tasers within the department have worked without any issues. We learned from TASER the issue was a manufacturing problem, not a handling problem. Axon in the past used a plastic component in the initial process. They now since have changed that switch to a metal component because they showed that plastic piece breaking under wear and tear and usage, especially if being overworked under a panic mode aspect. Axon representatives will be here beginning Tuesday, May 24th, and they'll also begin with our installation of the Fleet 3 car camera systems. With this update, all cars will now be hardwired in the fleet. In the past, we used a Wi-Fi system for transmission. The cameras will no longer rely on the Wi-Fi system. The video will no longer have to load from the camera to the in-car computer and then to the evidence.com. We've streamlined the process now with this new system where instead the video will now be held in the camera and then directly load to the evidence.com at the end of each shift. Questions?
How many vehicles do you currently have? So this is just the beginning of hardwiring the vehicles?
We're actually starting the process.
Just starting?
This coming week, yes, sir. And it's going to be a process where we're going to take each shift as they work. They'll have 4 days off, as we discussed earlier. In that time, they'll park their vehicles at the department. Those are the targeted vehicles that'll be handled from a week-to-week basis. They'll have 4 days to get them turned around and back on the road.
And they will take you through the transition from the Wi-Fi to the hardwire process? And
Affirmative, sir.
there's training involved, I think, and if I understood that correctly?
Any training that is going to happen will happen when they come back in with the car so that they are able to receive an online or, if not online, in-person training as to how they properly transmit the messaging from the in-car system to the evidence.com.
And this replacement of the tasers, I understood that that was going to be at no cost to the
Correct,
department.
sir. We did not incur any cost as a result of that.
Good. Okay. Any other?
Actually, can I just interrupt here for a second? Quincy, will you check the sound? We have word that the microphone might be muted to the participants online. Okay, Mr. Chairman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Chief, I do have a couple questions on Axon. So we use them for our, Axon provides our tasers and now
Correct, sir.
the
Car cameras and body cameras.
and body-worn cameras as
Yes, sir.
well?
Yes, sir.
How has storage been for the department? Has storage been a challenge?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not
Oh,
as far as I'm
cloud-based?
aware of to
Yeah.
date since taking over.
Cloud-based? Okay.
Cloud-based, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
With your permission, sir, I'll move on to item 7, unless there are any other questions.
Any other questions on the Axon? Okay, please.
All right, sir. Item 7, under recruitment and retention. If you refer to item 7 in your packet, which should be the document that has, should start with Police Advisory Panel. I'm sorry, yes, should start with the Police Advisory Panel, May 18th, item 7, at the top of the page. With that being stated, we currently have 109 filled positions of our budgeted 132, or 82.57%. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I know we're falling far from the 132, but I am still reticent we will reach that 132. Since our last meeting, we have lost one officer. He had been working part-time as a longshoreman to support his family and has chosen to retire from full work time for the Ports Authority, where he'll be working full-time as a longshoreman. We lost 3 cadets during the Academy firearms qualifications for failure to meet the standards. We also have received resignations from 3 personnel who will be accepting roles within the county management and at FLETC as instructors. We have 23 vacancies and 21 current applicants at some point in the process. We have 8 non-certified candidates at Human Resources completing psychological, medical, and drug screenings. We have 4 certified officers in the background process. We have 9 candidates awaiting interviews, which will be done by the end of next week. With that being stated, as I stated, we have 109 currently in the department. I can go through the demographic breakdowns, but I don't know if that's necessary for tonight. I can tell you that our civilian staffing remains compliant. Total civilian positions allocated are 10. Total civilian positions currently filled are 10. We have, as I stated, 8 all non-certified who are pending conditional offers of employment, 8 persons, 4 additional persons who are in the background phase, and then, as I stated earlier, a total of 9 awaiting full interview, 4 being certified, 4 being non-certified.
So on that, on this topic.
Yes, sir.
What is the problem? I mean, what do you think the problem is? I mean, I know we went through this process of pay, went through the process of, the hourly hours, 10 versus
Yes, sir.
12.
Yes, sir.
Have you authorized out-of-county home to work? Is that in?
As we spoke earlier at the last meeting, we actually expanded the take-home car policy
Okay.
out of county area
Okay.
to a total of 65 miles.
Okay.
What it does now is it increases it from the original, I believe it was 50 miles, to 65, which allows more than 98% of the officers to be able to drive door to door without having to deposit their work vehicle in a safe environment. The only thing that's an exception to that is they're not allowed to take the vehicles into the state of Florida. So anywhere from the state line, 65 miles inward into the state of Georgia, they're allowed to drive the vehicles.
So it sounds like a lot of things have been done to try to improve recruitment and retention. Is there anything else that, is there a need to bring somebody in to take a look at
No,
the
sir.
process? Or-
If I might be allowed, we've enhanced the training aspect. We are now starting what's called a 5-day process, whereas officers go through their normal regimen. Periodically, they'll go through a 5-day process where during that 5 days, they'll receive 40 hours of accredited training at the state and federal level as opposed to just the local county level. What this does is enhances their bandwidth, and it helps them to get a greater view from a higher level as to how they're doing their job, why they're doing their job, and more importantly, should they be doing their job better. As you know, the better you intellectualize, or the better you provide a knowledge-based environment for them to learn, the greater their capacity to do better is exemplified. And since then, we've offered several curriculums for them. Most recently, in the last 2 days, we had the UAV drone course offered. It's a 3-day course that was offered at our EOC. Not only did we have attendees from our department, from around the area, from other agencies at the city, county, and the state level to attend, including members from FLETC, who were there to get permits and certifications and understand the use of the drones in an environment that makes it really hard to determine when it's illegal to have a drone system out and what are the neutralities in which you can actually interdict if you find one operating within your patrol area or sectors.
Going
Really
back to
enlightening
the-
course. I sat through the first day of it.
But back to the recruit, I mean, are we going to colleges and universities?
sir.
And is there a systematic approach here to recruitment, getting outside of our
Yes, sir.
our boundaries here? I mean,
Yes, sir. We're hitting it electronically as well as in person. Again, I give credit to our PIO, Earl Wilson, who works under Captain Robinson. He single-handedly keeps our training and our recruitment posters up, not just for Glynn County, but also for Brunswick PD at the social media level, because as you know, this environment today, our generation today, doesn't want to see paper. They want to see electronics. We also have collaborative efforts with the area colleges, as well as with the online universities, Troy University, Coastal College of Georgia, Savannah State. We're working with GSU now to try to get a partnership with them where we actually not only hang physical flyers, but we work with their training department so that they know there are opportunities that are not just here with Glynn County Police Department, but also in the Glynn County community. We're trying to encourage people not just to come here to work as police officers, but also to come here and add bandwidth to every aspect of the government system.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm pretty sure that a lot of these, not a lot of them, but there are students or cadets in these academy classes all over that enter the academy unattached.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any potential for you? I know they're actually pursued while they're in the academy
Yes, ma'am.
and given conditional job offers. Have you tried that?
We have put up the necessary paperwork there, but as approaching each class as it comes out, no, ma'am, we haven't gone to that bandwidth yet. What we do know is that word of mouth is spreading about Glynn County. I've had several phone calls from various departments and a couple of cadets that are actually going through their course now. I believe my executive assistant, Ms. Lawhorn, took a message today from an individual who I had gone through the academy with in December, and I graduated, and he unfortunately failed out due to the firearms aspect of his training. My words to him was not to give up, to keep struggling, keep pushing forward, and you'll overcome and persevere. To date, he successfully has re-entered into the program, has passed firearms, and he's already made it clear that once he gets done, Glynn County he wants to come to as his new home. So that will sever ties that he has with whatever department once he failed the first time. So now he'll look at us as a future potential home. So the word is out about us.
Yeah, Chief, I think what we can do is we can put together a recruiting strategy, if you don't have one, to include all those types of things that you're already talking about, going to the colleges, going to some of those academies in the state.
Yes, sir.
Maybe talking to Georgia Post, too, about what we have for reciprocal agreements with other
Yes, sir.
states. If there's other colleges outside of Georgia, we could actually recruit as well.
Yes, sir.
Some of those areas that you or some of those organizations that you talked about, IACP, PERF, Noble, they all have recruiting type arms, so maybe we can
Correct.
take advantage of some of the things that are out there already. I know it's a common topic across law enforcement across the country. It's very, it's kind of a challenge for
competitive.
people
Yes,
to be able to recruit. But I think based on the things that you have mentioned and a lot of the things that we are doing here now, it is attractive. It's an attractive police department to come to. It's a great place to live, and hopefully we can use that to our advantage with our recruiting efforts.
And adding to what you just said, sir, if I might circle back with the permission of the board, I mentioned the training aspect of what we offer, the take-home vehicles, the outer body armor wear that they've asked for, they received, the equipment updates that they've received. The facial hair, as long as it's groomed and well maintained for the men, is also well received. And there are a couple of other perks that they're finding are very beneficial to retention. A lot of them that had talked about leaving are now suddenly seeing the wealth that they bring to the job, and they're actually more excited now to do the job on a daily basis.
And there's a lot more training I think we can access from FLETC. That's free. It's right down the road. They have
Yes, sir.
open seats all the time for some pretty
Yes, sir.
high-level training that we can get our folks in for free.
Yes, sir. And with you mentioning the conferences, I am a life member with Noble. I'm a life member with HBCU LEEA, which is all 107 historically black colleges and universities that represent through their police chiefs or their directors of public safety. Having served as a chief of an HBCU, I now go to their conference, if nothing else, to bring additional training to them and then to recruit from their respective departments to come to Glynn County, to come to Georgia and work. The same with Noble, the same that we'll be doing at the IECP conference. We'll be taking full recruitment packages with us to offer on the spot to people who are interested.
Do you have a full-time recruiting officer?
We now do. We did not have one in the past. We have recently promoted Sergeant Chad Strickland to the Office of Recruitment and Retention, and he has assumed that responsibility now, and he's been very effective in helping us to find the best out there at this time, which has greatly
maybe-
increased our bandwidth.
Perhaps the next meeting, we could get maybe a more detailed assessment of the recruiting program.
Yes, sir.
And what you're doing, and
Yes, sir.
because I think it's obviously the numbers, they haven't moved off. The dial hasn't moved much since we've been here. So I think that's an important, and I'm looking forward to you working with them. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I have one question. Chief, the three that failed out because of fire training,
Yes, sir.
I guess it's a two-part question. Are we giving them training before they get to the academy so that they may be able to pass the firearm training? And two, if they fail out, do we then are they then able to come back, do the necessary training and practice to get ready to try to go through again? You mentioned the fella that you went through in December with who failed out. I guess he went back and did some training, and now he's going back to the academy and looks like he's going to pass through. Is that what we're doing with those three that didn't make it through the fifth time?
In a one-time circumstance, sir, rather than go ahead and just dismiss them from the department and completely take them out of the Glynn County employment system, we were able to meet the necessary needs of Parks and Recreation, find summertime lifeguards and park recreation attendants for them where they had a huge shortage. With the difference in pay variance, they all three agreed to take on those responsibilities. Two now are active lifeguards with Glynn County. Or one is active, one is going through her second testing phase for lifeguard, and the third has opted to become a recreational attendant, with the understanding that as they move closer to the July or August report date back to the academy, they will reinstitute with firearms training through the department, through an expert, to make sure they maintain not only the skill set, but they're able to pass firearms this time. Once they return to the academy, they'll pick up from where they left off with no lapse in their training, other than the time that they have spent possibly not working out, but I suspect that they're staying physically fit as well. They'll pass firearms, and then they'll be allowed to continue with the current class to final fruition and graduation. Should they flunk out a second time from firearms, I believe they're not allowed to come back unless they start the process again at the actual beginning, and that would be a separate process where they reapply once removed from the department. They'll reapply again to become police officer either with Glynn County or with any other agencies.
When an officer fails the firearms portion,
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any formal remedial training within the department that's available to them? I mean,
Not normally, ma'am. What happens is, having gone through the course and seeing what happens, if you have individuals who are not meeting the standards before the final exam or firearms exam is given, they'll take 4 days where they go through a remedial at the academy. Then they'll be allowed to retest again. If they don't get at least, I believe it's 2 scores of 260 or higher, 240 or higher, excuse me, then they're immediately dismissed from the academy. It's then left up to the department if they want to keep them on and keep training them until the next date, or if they find a suitable means for them to return at a later time. What we found would be a good idea is, instead of paying for them to stay within the department as officers or cadets, move them over to another area where they would be viable, let them pay them in the meantime, and then they'll transition back. And it was an agreement with Parks and Recreations that was very amenable. Some departments, once you flunk out of the academy, they completely cut ties with you altogether. And then you have to go through the full process again. It's really up to the choice of the chief of the police department or of the training division to determine if they have the merits to keep on to a later date or not. Hopefully I answered that for you, ma'am. Yes.
Is there a cadet program at the department?
A cadet program?
Cadet, you know,
We have one in the sense of, once they are interviewed and if they feel that they have the merits necessary to become a cadet, we start introducing them rather than wait for their report date and then have them come back at a later date. They start wearing all of the accoutrements to become a cadet: the uniform, the hat, the utility belt with the blue-handled gun as opposed to the real weapon. And they learn, they start reviewing criminal procedure, they start going through their training, physical fitness, to pass the PAT, and all of these other things. So it's kind of a pre-mini camp that they go through in order to be able to go to the academy. Now, the great thing is also, once they finish the academy, several departments like ours, you have to then go through a secondary process called your FTO program. And basically, if you don't cut it there, there's still an opportunity for you to be dismissed because you're just not meeting the metrics of what the department is looking for.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on retention, recruitment? I think that.
Well,
I think that-
one final question. In the report, it says there's 12 non-certified candidates at this time. Does that include the 3 folks that will have to go back through, or that's 12 in addition to those 3?
It's a 12 in addition, sir.
Okay. So we're actively trying to retain the 3 who didn't make it through the first time. Is that correct?
Actively retain them for future training at the firearms level moving forward, yes, sir, but they're not currently on the Glynn County payroll. They're on Parks and Recreation payroll. And they'll come back over to us closer to the report date for the academy. But in the meantime, on weekends, they'll be going through their firearms training course as a voluntary program if they want to move forward. Otherwise, they'll stay employed with the county.
I think half the battle is getting people who want to come and be officers. So
Yes, sir.
I think that's important if they have that desire to try to get them to get through the training. So
Yes, sir.
anyway, thank you, sir.
It's the first time that we're doing this. In the past, once you were separated from the academy, pretty much you would be written off. But I always try to offer the opportunity for those, if you're that serious about becoming a law enforcement officer and the technicality is where you messed up, you're worthy of a second opportunity to chance. So we have to find new and innovative ways to still continue to find quality in these officers who have voluntarily stepped forth into this gape that we call law enforcement.
Chief, I do have an idea for you after this meeting for the firearms qualifications to maybe get them some additional training.
Yes, sir. Duly noted.
Any further questions, comments on this topic? Okay. We've come to the end of the agenda items, is there any other business that you'd like to bring up before the panel, the chief, or
Sir,
the
all
panel
I would
itself?
like to do, with your permission and with the board's permission and those tuning in, is to just give a moment of silence to those lost in the Buffalo attack, and then the individuals that were killed at the church out in Orange County due to both active shooter incidents. I know we continue to see this daily throughout the country, but those who reached a national level, and just wanted to make sure we recognize them. Also, Brunswick PD lost an officer due to a long time standing injury from a motorcycle incident. I believe he passed yesterday. No? I'm sorry, it was a memorial mark. Forgive me. I thought it was a recent passing of that officer. So forgive me on that. But other than that, I just wanted to give a moment of silence to those individuals that were lost, and the retired police officer who actually fought the combatant in the first active shooter attack, but succumbed to the actions of the shooter. So other than that, that concludes anything I have to offer, sir. And I thank you again for this opportunity to present to the Police Advisory Panel, and am always ready to answer any future questions you may have. My staff also stands ready as well. And it is your police department, not mine. Sir.
Thank you for that, Chief. And I guess the other item we have to decide on our next meeting date. Christie, perhaps if we could throw out some dates. Are there any dates at around this time in June that is not good for anyone, so that we could put it somewhere around the 18th, 19th, 20th of June?
The 21st of June would be the week that we typically.
Would that be a Wednesday?
Sorry, 22nd.
A Wednesday, the 21st of June? Is that? 22nd. How about the 22nd? Mr. Chairman, is that good with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Charlie, I'm a director. Is that good for you? Okay. Let's, Christie, if you would, we'd mark that the 22nd of June.
Fine for me, Ralph.
Let's, Christie, if you would, we'd mark that the 22nd of June.
Fine for me, Ralph.
Let's, Christie, if you would. Okay, well, I sounded okay, I thought, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
So we'll mark the 22nd, 5 o'clock here for, and we'll get you Christie, what time frame do you need to pull it together? The week before, that people have their agenda items?
I have to have it posted by 24 hours before, but so if you give me an agenda item the week before, that would.
Okay, so we will provide those items to you. Okay, there's any new business? Okay, no. All right, then could I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second, we've motion approved and seconded, and we will adjourn this meeting, and thank you all very, very much, and have a great evening.